The international community is watching. The United States is watching. It's whether they let people depart the country who want to depart, whether they treat women across the country as they have committed to treat them, and how they behave and operate. And therefore, we're not moving toward recognition. At the same time, we're dealing with a reality world here where we have to engage in order to get American citizens and others out of the country.
Pathetic. Jen Psaki admitting we gave up the country to a group of terrorists who said they were going to be broad-based and inclusive. Instead, they gave us Terror University. Joining me now is Klon Kitchen, former intelligence officer with the ODNI, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Klon, how do we get our people out, and how does the administration not realize they're culpable for us getting in this situation?
Well, in terms of helping the administration realize what they've done, I don't think there's a lot of hope. Recently the Secretary of State was bemoaning that this new Afghan government wasn't inclusive enough.
You believe that?
As though that's the problem, right? I mean, at a point where we still have 200 Americans trying to get out, we have the Taliban preventing flights from taking off, and we're worried about inclusivity. I think that just demonstrates the lack of seriousness that the administration has taken on this. The spokeswoman will huff and puff and strike a strong posture when she's asked a hard question. But at the end of the day, they just don't have good answers, and I think that's proving out.
Klon, the one thing is pretty clear. They keep saying we can't let these private flights out as our retired vets are going to action to try to help save the SIVs as well as Americans over there. And they're doing their own thing. They say, well, we can't, even though we believe there's Americans on there, we just can't let these planes out because they don't know really who's on them, because we have no people on the ground. Is that an acceptable answer?
No, of course not. I mean, it's a type of indirect hostage taking, right? I mean, again, Secretary Blinken's out talking about, we're working on it to do everything in our power to support these flights. And the thing that is ignored in that kind of a statement is that, one, we'd have a lot more power in this situation if we hadn't left so recklessly, and we wouldn't even need it if we'd evacuated every American before leaving. So this is all just one big own goal by the administration. This did not have to be as terrible as it is shaping up to be, and I'm afraid that it's only going to get worse. The Taliban has a little bit of a trump card right now in the sense that they have people that they know our government values and that other Western governments value, and they are, I guarantee you, extracting concessions by withholding these plane flights from being able to take off.
So what they'll do is they need cash, right? They obviously need recognition. They want us to staff our embassy again and want to be looked at as legitimate. With Haqqani as essentially their FBI director, we're supposed to go back and work with a country that we have as their intelligence officer, a $20 million or a $10 million bounty on his head?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Siraj Haqqani and his father Jalaluddin Haqqani, for your listeners who may not be a nerd like me and follow all this stuff, the Haqqani network was a critical network that provided both manpower and equipment into Afghanistan to al-Qaeda and more broadly the Taliban during the post 9/11 world. These guys are as bad as it gets. And the point of Siraj Haqqani now being essentially the equivalent of their FBI director is just yet another example, but not the only example, that any notion that the Taliban is going to be this inclusive or liberalized new version 2.0 is just wishful thinking on the Western side. There's no basis in reality to expect that.
So one thing is other area of our expertise. It's what's going on with the China virus. And we know, too, that it came from the Wuhan lab. It's all but been confirmed as China denies it. But what are the 900 pages published by the
DNI?
Yeah, well, we got the 900 pages now. And now it's published that Anthony Fauci greenlighted grants to the Wuhan lab through Peter Daszak's group. And this gets out there, and obviously he did not tell the truth in front of Congress. If he not, he parsed the words so disingenuously. He deserves to be fired. What did we learn from those 900 pages from The Intercept?
Well, so I actually haven't been able to work through all 900 pages of those yet. But I'll tell you, in terms of what you mentioned about Fauci, it's really too bad because someone in his position simply can't afford to squander their public legitimacy. And I think bipartisan recognition is that's what he's done. And I think some of his engagements recently on Capitol Hill, particularly with like Senator Rand Paul, whom I don't always agree with, but it's very clear that he's so tortuously parsing words that it legitimately invites real skepticism on what you can accept and what you can believe from Dr. Fauci, which is unfortunate because we have a lot of unanswered questions about all of this. Americans have a real desire and legitimate need to understand the truth of the situation, and we need spokespeople like him to be able to be trustworthy, but I'm afraid he's just squandered that.
The other thing we have to look out is 95,000 Afghans are going to be on military bases in this country, and my sense is if they are worthy of coming back here over the last 20 years, that many people we work with, let alone the third country ones, okay, then why are most SIVs being we're told by the State Department, most SIVs are still in their country? I want you to hear what Mark Green says he's finding out about the refugees that are coming here now. Cut 7.
I'm talking to sources that are at multiple locations. The real challenge here is directions from state. DOD is getting its directions on how to handle these situations by the State Department. And the State Department is failing to give them adequate information. They're letting them leave. They can catch an Uber and actually leave the base. They don't know exactly how many are even there, so they can't account for someone if they don't return. And they're telling the people, oh, if you go and you don't come back, well, that will end your visa processing. But if they want free, they're gone. There's nobody keeping them from leaving. And then you get the shocking allegations of harassment and sexual assault, and it's horrific.
We have no control of Afghanistan and no control over who's leaving Afghanistan and no control when we get the Afghanis into our country.
Well, I mean, look, this is just the latest example of what is a growing list of examples of how the administration simply was not prepared to do this. They did not put the infrastructure or the planning into leaving Afghanistan. They have not put in the infrastructure or the planning in terms of managing what happens after we have left Afghanistan. And it's not the kind of plane that you can fly or that you can build while flying. This thing is kind of hurtling toward the ground, and I'm afraid we haven't seen all of the carnage yet. I think there's going to be a lot of disruption. I think there's going to be a huge political price for the administration to pay, and frankly, they deserve it.
And it's to the point it should be embarrassing to this government that private industry had to come in and try to save Americans, and they've done just that by the thousands, and they're going to be the ones to get them out. Klon Kitchen, thanks so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way